course, we're going to be walking into our workshop. We're going to be opening up the hood, and we're going to be talking about spares and repairs. So quick question, do you know the difference between service and when you're just having repairs? So what exactly is falling under service and which one should be considered repairs? We're going to be talking about that, and Gav will be helping us walk through that. We also have two car enthusiasts. Let me start with one who's been missing. I was just checking the last time he was on our show. Can you imagine? Was in 2023, the 28th of December to be exact. This car enthusiast was on our show, and we were celebrating something exciting that he was doing at that time. He is back in studio. We want to catch up with him and see what's been happening in his orbit. And also, as a car enthusiast, as somebody who has experienced being a principal dealer in the car industry, of course he knows what's happening in. His name is Michael. Well, then, Michael, it's so good to see when you are looking good. Well, I know you can't see me.
He's looking very relaxed.
He's looking very
relaxed, yeah.
Better than you and I put together. And you know, we're also live on our Facebook page, so you can actually hop on and have a look at Mike. Whatever he's up to now seems to have some sort of glow and spring in your step. Have you heard the definition of tall, dark, and handsome? And that's your Michael over this morning. Mike, good morning. It's so good to have you in studio.
Good morning, Palaki. Good morning, listeners. And I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited.
After a long time.
After it. 2023, can you imagine?
Yeah, that's been ages.
Also, lastly, but in no way least, it is also our favorite car marketing officer, car enthusiast, and he also walks us through what's been happening in the car industry. Tafadzwa. How many times did I say your name?
Quite a few times, and good morning, listeners. Good to be back on the seat.
All right, so let's get right into it. I'm quite interested in our first story this morning. Caught my eyes. I don't know if this is also how you felt about this story. Tafadzwa, Gav, as well as Michael. We're looking into something that the Chinese again are up to, as they've gone and just rolled out into South Africa last September, and already, this is only June, they are outselling the likes of Mercedes, Honda, one of my personal favorites, Jag, and even Mazda. Yes, you heard me right. This car is smoking the big boys. Before I tell you what it is, let me give you some clues. 0719-100-404. Let's see if you can come through and figure out if you know this car brand. So like I said, it's been rolled out in South Africa last year, end of year. It is a sub-brand of another Chinese brand, the Cherry Group. Now, you know, this is the same company that's behind, if you've seen the Tigo SUV, and now this particular car we're talking about, they say that it has this amazing laser focus. It's stylish, it's affordable, it's a crossover, and they're also making SUVs, and they're also making you feel as a modern driver, as if you've got a little bit of flair without having to break your bank trying to drive a GLA or GLC. Now, since they launched in 2018, they've sold over, listen to this, over 1.2 million vehicles. And now they're stepping into South Africa like they're owning the driveway. They've already sold over 620 since May alone. They seem to have come prepared. In fact, right now, there's over 40 dealerships in South Africa, and they have a massive car parts warehouse in Joburg, and they're not just taking selfies and doing soft launches. In fact, they've gone and done a digital first warehouse, and we want to hear more about that. Something that's faster, smarter, more responsive than the rest. I wonder what that means, and we'll be talking about that. So that means if you are having issues with the car and you need service turnarounds, especially if you buy a car from a dealer like Mercedes or something, or BMW or something, you might know what it must be like to be on a long waiting list, right? When trying to get your car serviced. Only 2 weeks, you won't go quicker than ever. Well, this Chinese car brand is coming in and changing in with their first, with what's being called the digital first, faster, smarter service mechanism that they're coming out. They're aiming to sell, listen to this, 800 cars a month with their flagship model, the X70 Plus. They've got a sporty, dashing model as well. And both of them are coming fully loaded with comfort, safety, tech, slick design. And yeah, anything that makes a car look exciting, they're doing that. So what's on the fuel? Well, two things, economic and timing. So you can imagine a place like South Africa, you may realize that they've been having inflation sitting around like almost 3%. That means the rand is also flexing some muscles again. Interest rates are dropping. That means car loans are getting cheaper. And guess, if you're thinking about an upgrade, which car model everyone is thinking about? 07191040. Let's see if you can guess. This is not the car icon of the day, but this is what's making our news. What was that? And what's making it exciting? So I'm going to throw this one to you, Taff. You go first. I've just given a little bit of background into this particular new model that's coming up. The Chinese are not stopping.
Yeah, the momentum is only getting stronger and stronger. And we've talked about this before. The Chinese are now the biggest car exporters in the world. They are opening up brands left, right, and center. This brand you're talking about is also a new baby in Southern Africa and the region, but not so much in the world. Like you mentioned, they've already sold 1,200 units. Chances are most of the units are probably in China, but you can also look at the Australasian market, Australia included, and Southeast Asia. I'm sure that there's probably a decent footprint over there as well, which accounts for those numbers. But let's talk about the Chinese brands globally and what they're doing. The Chinese are leading the pack in terms of car tech right now. And I think it's showing fruits in the brands that they're opening up and availing to the wider market. I think the response from the markets themselves is also very testament in the quality of these products. And I like it for one reason, the competitive space and what it means for products for me and you. It means as the environment gets more and more competitive, we get better products for me and you at the end of the day, because everyone's trying to keep up to a certain standard, and the Chinese are creating their standards to keep up.
So they're aiming to sell 800 units a month. That sounds like it's high.
Depends on the market in South Africa, yes and no. We've got other equal brands to this one selling in excess of 1,000 units a month. And we're talking maybe a particular model or key model.
Right.
So 800, I think, is a very nice, it's a statement number, because you're inching close to established brands, and also a very nice figure when you're looking at the black and white in terms of the count. So I see some potential in there.
Yeah, Michael, tell us a little bit more about this brand. What do you know about this car? Firstly, what is it called? I've had the listener try and come through and guess. Haval. I can see why you say Haval, because the Chinese have done pretty well to position that name in our minds as the alternative car brand. But there are many others that are playing sneaky leaky on us, quite like this one. Talk to us about this car brand, Michael.
Okay, this brand we're talking about, we're going to talk about today is the Jetor, which is Jetor. And this vehicle is a sub-dealer of Chery. They've made it sort of like on its own entity, to be its own entity really. So Jetor, it was launched in China in 2018, and it was introduced in South Africa as well, like you said, in 2024 in September, and they did about 40 dealerships, which was pretty good really. And yeah, it's an amazing brand really, and we're excited to talk about it today.
Yeah. So one thing that we've learned a lot about cars is that each car has signature, right? It has things that makes it that car. So BMW, Audi, Mercedes, the Jag, whatever it is, Hyundai, I was going to say Honda, there's no such thing. But each car comes in with something that makes it unique. So when we're looking at the Jetor, what is it that's making it exceptional on the market, especially because the Chinese are really dishing out all sorts of interesting cars, including the Chery itself?
So what's making it really exciting really is obviously the design of the vehicle. The Chinese are coming really strong.
Yeah.
So what they've done, they've studied the market. They used to do like cars which are not really good. They've studied the market. They're coming up with really good designers. They put people together who can actually come with the right product for the consumers. So if you look at the Jetor now, you find out to say one of the designers actually came from Porsche, which is an amazing car really in the world. So, and then also they're in partnership with Land Rover, Jag and Land Rover, and all those designers coming together, they'll bring a proper, amazing product on the market. And the other thing that they've done really well as well, if you look into South Africa, why it's fast-growing SUV. It's because of the price as well. So you've got the right product with the right specification, packed with technology, then also the price. And that's what's killing other vehicles. To say you're now getting everything that you used to get in a traditional brand on such a cheaper car.
Right.
And this car is also suitable for our environment. So the Chinese are becoming very clever now with the product they're putting onto the market.
So, Gav, I know you might not necessarily have driven one or necessarily seen one, but from what you are seeing from a mechanical point of view, what would make this particular car more interesting? Like Michael was explaining to you, I forgot when you've made it in life, there was one particular big badge that we'd all think we've made it in life. If you're looking for performance, there's the other one, the three-letter one, the three-letter initials, right? Where you think, I want sports, I want power, and a little bit of luxury. This one, when we've typically seen Chinese, we've often thought quality on what's the word? Not quality. I'm having a mental freeze. Compromise. That's it. Compromise on quality, on finishes, and performance of the car. But China right now, even including cars like Haval, is really shaking up that stereotype that we've had from them. From where you are sitting, Governor, mechanically, what are you seeing and feeling about what this car is set to bring to us?
Thank you. From what I can see is that the Chinese have really upped their game as far as manufacturing reliable vehicles. These cars with a 5-star rating. Their cars, most of them, with a 5-star rating in terms of safety. So I think they are up to it, and they are taking all the good things from all the big manufacturers, putting them together, and also be able to produce a car that is affordable, but offering all the things without any compromise. So when it comes to fixing, of course, it's still a little bit early to see how the longevity will be of this model. But so far they've held their own, and it looks like there's no going back. And the Chinese really, they are now game changers. And even if you look at the electrical side, they are also leading. So they have addressed all the concerns that we have had before. And I think going forward, we're all going to see Chinese manufacturers taking over most of the industries that were predominantly especially European and American manufacturers.
Got you. And in terms of safety features, any idea what we're talking about in terms of safety features? We've been speaking about autonomous driving, the improvements that are becoming, and also tweaks to that technology. And it was too sensitive and was getting in the way. With Jeto, I don't know, Michael, any idea what safety features we can expect to see in this car?
It's got safety features like any other cars, really. You're looking at your airbags, you look at your EBD, ESP, all that braking system, really. So it's not something new in the motor industry, but they're copying now, putting those safety standards which everyone does, really. So they're trying to match what everyone is doing in the industry. Yeah,
got you.
So basically they're really good in terms of their safety.
0719-100-404. Do you think, just from what you've heard, and if you had the opportunity to start over the internet, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by the looks of this car. It definitely does have presence. It definitely feels futuristic with like clean design elements, right? And something else, with my lights, I don't think it's so treasure. I don't want it. My lights, they probably can, but they just look like Chatambura. I don't know. We'll see with what that's going to look like. But if you can hop onto your social media quickly, ChatGPT is also great. It'll generate the image for you. I'm curious to hear, would you buy a brand new Jetta over a Mercedes, a Mazda, a Honda, because it's newer, sleeker, and more affordable? Or for you, are you loyal to your usual badge? 0719-100-404. We want to hear your thoughts on that, as we're just looking at what's giving this car the edge against other cars new onto the continent, a sub car of Cherry. All right, so let's move right along. Taf, tell us what's been happening in terms of the world of technology. South Africa is doing something interesting with car plates.
Yeah, they have. So the number plate, the humble number plate, has come a long way. I think it was introduced many decades ago when cars started to become popular on the roads. It was a way to, one, identify strictly with ownership of a vehicle, register the item onto the road so that there's a record of the car being there for statistics purposes. Of course, then there was government institutions made created to govern and implement how these processes are taken care of. Fast forward to today, anytime you buy a car, import one second-hand or buy a car brand new, it must be registered, and of course the identifying feature, or I guess I can cheat and say serial number, which is linked to you, the owner, is the number plate. Now South Africa has taken it a step further. You can imagine with a tool like this or an item like this on vehicles, it creates, there are some unsavory characters, unfortunately, around us. So they can take your number plate and use it to commit a crime, and in a way to try and run away from the fact that it's them who did it, to give the police, as it were, a run around, or in some cases can manipulate or make false ones, which people can't identify as false, again can be used for criminal intent, or just because they want to circumvent the need to register their vehicle for many reasons. It could be stolen and imported in. But this time around, South Africans have implemented a number plate which has identifiable features which are unique to it, and also a digital imprint linked to that same number plate, which means that you can follow and connect someone with an individual number plate without the risk of tampering and future-proofing it, as it were. So that the number plate, as humble as it began, has now become a very critical, identifiable feature on every vehicle, which can be traced back using digital means to mean that there is no duplication or any other way it can be manipulated to be done so that anything else can happen with it. So it's a very interesting feature. I think it has to do with security, registration principles, and maybe as well as, in terms of the registration process for vehicles, make it much more transparent and identifiable to a person. And they've also opened up to local players to manufacture these number plates as well, which can also create some jobs in some aspects as well.
Yeah, we're talking this morning about James Bond kind of textile that's coming into number plates in South Africa. It's coming with the forensic QR codes, burn-proof ID markings, and chemical wear resistance, tamper-evident features that are screaming, "Don't mess with me." It's Capital 100.4 FM, Harare Zabi. Imagine you being stopped at a traffic stop, nemapurisa roadblock. Number plate would you feel safer as a driver knowing that every plate on the road is now traceable, trackable, and tamper-proof? Or are you worried about too much being picked under the bonnet? 0719-100-40. I want us to contextualize this. If we bring this to Zimbabwe, for example, I'm trying to, if you can imagine right now, driving, you see a car that has number plates, or you find out that the car that you have bought, the plates that are on there, belong to another car that had been maybe deregistered or hasn't been on the road for a while. What does this mean? Michael, I want to bring this to you. Would you want to drive a car that you feel the plates are trackable, traceable, or takujienis?
No, I would love to drive a car with number plates which are traceable. But from my own point of view, really, it's not about the number plate itself to be like digital number plate and all those fancy things and the stuff, really. It's just to digitalize everything. And Zimbabwe, we're on the road of doing that. I'm not sure where they are right now, because if you look at our toll gates, you have cameras and the stuff. Then there's a company who was actually involved to put those cameras, put everything digital, so that if you commit a crime or if anything happens, they are linked to Zinara and everybody. So your information is actually on the system, and they know who the owner of the vehicle is. So basically, the number plate issue, it's nice and fancy, but what's more important for me is to digitalize everything. That your vehicle is registered to so and so, and then also you've got your tax on there. When you pass through the toll gate, the police can actually see if they have digital cameras. They can pick up who's driving the car. They can send a ticket to your house and stuff, really. So yeah, it's all about digitalizing everything. And Zimbabwe are on the road doing that. I'm not sure where they are right now.
Yeah, but I'm also just thinking it's also gonna possibly force us to pay Mtero more religiously and more often now, if you know that it has a bearing of somebody just punching in your plates, because you can know unless you miss Mtero, we are probably driving with Mterwa 2021. I know there are people who do that. Some people don't even have their Mtero registered because they think, oh, I'll pass around as if, my car is a government vehicle. But now if they can just punch as your car is driving by, it begs to mind the idea of compliance with car registration.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an issue. Yes, you raise it. Some people may think of it that way, but I think it's a positive thing. Let's go back all the way to forget about the number plates, forget about the processes. When you do your driver's license and you pass, when you sign that piece of paper, you are agreeing to abide by the laws and regulations of driving in Zimbabwe. Part of those laws are, if you're driving a car, it must be registered, it must be licensed to the full extent of the law, and so many processes must be there for it to be allowed on the road. And you agree to that when you effectively get your driver's license. So this is part and parcel of the cost of owning a vehicle. Your licensing, your radio licensing, etc., and all other things, just like maintenance. These are all part and parcel of it. So I feel that a system like this is actually good, because if you are going to drive a car on the road, you must adhere to the rules which you agreed to. Therefore, you must pay the piper where the piper is owed.
Yes, big brother Tafadzwa, we hear you, but times can be really hard sometimes. 2-3 months, and then you think, but the Ramtero, and then, covering that cost, it's very likely that you might say, well, since the car is not moving, let me just put it to the side. And then the only thing we forget is that money is accumulative, right? Whoa, it's overwhelming, and you might not, for whatever reason, you might not be up to date with your Mtero. So I hear what you're saying, but I feel like, without being big brother, if we're realistic and practical, I think in 2022, about 4,000 people had their cars impounded because Baba's now Badar Mtero. So there's something that's going on there that's making us not pay our Mtero.
Yeah, but let me just come through on that one as well. I agree with Tafadzwa what he's saying.
Of course you do.
Obviously, like, if someone is not paying for their taxes and stuff, really, road tax and stuff, what they need to do is, it's not, you can exempt the vehicle. So there's no point for you to say you're just going to let the car sit at home and then you pay when you feel like. So digitalizing everything will make people exempt, will make people pay their taxes on time, and will make people abide by the rules.
And also, this money as well, some of it goes towards the care and repair of the road.
Yes.
So you're circumventing that, which means that you shouldn't complain.
He's going to Trabablas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it helps, and it helps everyone.
Yeah, 0719-100-404. Ungafarira here technology yekauya muZimbabwe kuti manamba plates edu anenge akunyatsobatika ukangoti mveapo kuti ukapinda robot red, for example, we can trace, we can track, and certainly we can't tamper with number plates. 0719-100-404. That means you can't forge a number plate. Everybody's plugged into the system, and if you have a rogue plate right now, you would be flagged out. How do you feel about this? Do you think we should fully support our move as a country towards digital plates here as well? 0719-100-404. Pangonema Kombi. Maybe you're a passenger. Maybe you yourself own cars. When you see a car without plates, for example, do you feel safe or do you feel worried? 0719-100-404. Gav, you've been very quiet. You live in Botswana. What's car plate tracking like down there or up there?
So far, that kind of technology they don't have. It's not, we don't have it here. But just touching on what Michael and Tafadzwa said, like, normally if your car is out of the road, like it's a breakdown, you are supposed to take it like to a garage for them to fix it. So during that time, in most countries, in South Africa, they do that, in Botswana they do, but I'm not so sure in Zimbabwe if we are doing that. The garage is able to write a letter to say this vehicle was with us for this period of time, because you cannot say that license if you are not using the vehicle. So you write that, and the transport department, they waiver the cost during that time, or the penalties, they waiver them. So I'm not so sure in Zimbabwe if we are doing that, but in Botswana, South Africa, they do accept those letters. So if I can say the garage, you don't have money, and you say the garage, and the garage can witness that it was here, so they do waiver all those costs if you were not using it. But now sometimes what happens is some garages, they will connive with the people and give them the letters, but there's a risk for that, because should that car be found somewhere, maybe committed a crime or something, and you witness that this car was here by us being used, you will be in trouble for that. So that's another corrective measure that is there.
Yeah,
but anything that we can do to prevent theft, it's a welcome development because we have had a lot of problems with vehicle theft. Like in South Africa, I can tell you of a story where one guy based in Durban received a fine from Joburg to say your car was in Joburg. And the picture is exactly as his car, the number plate, any scratch that is there. So they will clone your car, exactly everything. Even
what?
Exactly that. And that's how we drive in Joburg and you're based in Durban. So they only take that up when this guy received that ticket with his picture and say your car was in Joburg. No, but I've never been there. So they took both the vehicles and they said, now I want to see which one is genuine. And you got to prove that your car is genuine because everything is the same with this other vehicle. So they've had a lot of problems with car theft. And I think this will solve some of those problems.
I think from that point of view, I hear what you're saying, right? We've also heard incidences where because number plate. I hear what you're saying, but I can't imagine someone cloning a whole car. And it just reminded me of this historic robbery we had in our country recently in Matebeleland, right? And the car did have plates on there because they had stolen the plates and they put it on another car. So I get what you're saying. Okay, all right, I follow you. I suppose, will it also be, because most people right now, I don't know if I should ask you, Taf, Michael and Gavin, as you're listening in, the plates that you have, the car registration book that you have and the plates, are they in your name? Michael, you go first.
Basically, there's that rule which says like the registration book doesn't mean you're the owner of the car, really. So you can register a vehicle in anyone's name. But most people, I think, like in Zimbabwe now, they need to make sure that when they sell their car or when they buy the car, they do the change of ownership and the name goes a person who bought the vehicle. Because that's the other issues we've got here, where people, they sort of like get reluctant to change the registration books. So which means if like now we've got cameras in the city center and they say people they've committed crime, they won't be able to track the person who's currently driving.
Right, and that's precisely why I was bringing this up, that even if these number plates are becoming traceable, majority of people, and that's why I was doing a basic survey. If you're listening in, my number plates, is that car book in your name or it's in the previous seller? And we're hoping that perhaps it went 5 or 6 other sellers before you. Funny story, my dad sold a couple of cars, and I think this must have been 2007. And in the process of trying to prove something legally, he decided to look up those car registration books, and guess whose name they were in 2025? They were still in his name. Yeah, not 2007. So you can imagine, if that car is involved in a problem and they can trace the number plate, it's going back to Dagi and not to the person who has. So that's why I was bringing that up. But even though they're becoming traceable at the moment, most people are not actually changing the names on the registration book, the number plate name, to suit that they're the current owner.
Yep, 100%.
0719-100-404. Looking to hear your thoughts on that matter. Tough, remind us what's our car icon of the day so that the listener can guess. And then, Gav, we're interested to talk a little bit more going into our workshop, service and repairs.
So the car icon is a continuation from last week because nobody got it. So we figured let's make the clues a little bit softer because maybe we made them a bit too hard. So it goes like this. This vehicle was produced from 2003 to 2005 and is widely considered a modern classic. It is a favorite vehicle amongst people in the tuner culture because its 2-liter engine was highly modifiable to produce much more power from it. It is a Japanese car maker that used to make a vehicle called the Lancer, and this vehicle was the next step in its revolution to go towards the new product it is.
All right.
It has an all-wheel drive system and has a very strong rally pedigree.
All right. So, why do you think it was? So, 0719-100-404. Wondering why do you think last week it was difficult for the listener to to guess what this car icon is before we go into our workshop this morning?
So the Japanese have made quite some good rally cars, and they've made a lot of tuner cars. I can think of Nissans that have done well in the rally scene. Subaru was the one that kept on coming up. The WRXs were vehicles people thought it was because, again, they did well in rally and street racing as well, and in the tuning culture. But this was a sleeper. It was a different vehicle that was very, very recognizable, uniquely different from the Subarus, the Nissans of the time, and still stood out because it performed, and in some aspects also helped to create new technologies to make tuner cars a bit way better than like they are now.
All right, 0719 10404. Let's see if you can figure out which car icon is. We're going into our workshop, and as always, 0719 10404. You can come through. So you know, like how we have a stereotype about people's names, like Sandra, Tafadzwa, Michael, Sean, Shamaine, Catherine. Well, I think we also have stereotypes about cars. Alteza, it's GD6, DID, Gusheshe. And there's a certain car that I see on the road. Without exception, whenever I see that model car, it's run down, like it's hanging on its last nut and bolt on this particular. Can you make any guess which car I'm referring to? But it's like, it's about to fall apart, and you're wondering, 0719 10404. And I always ask myself this question: is this car, judging by how it's looking damaged, being serviced and repaired, or being serviced? I'm about to get myself tongue-tied, but I think you get what I'm trying to say, right? I don't know if you're following where I'm going with this. What are you judging by the look on its outside? Could you then say this car is lacking service as well as repair, or it could just be repair, but it might still be service? And that's what we want to talk about. Gov, what is the difference between service and repair? And would you be a good judge of a car and say this car is lacking service simply because it really is hanging by its last bolt and nut, Governor?
Okay. So I'll give you something that we used to do. I think we still do it, like in the rural areas. And I don't want to pamba papa na baba. Panoonekwa nekuti dzimba dzakanyatsomirira apo onekwa dzimba dzakabhenda dzoda kudonha zvidikidiki zvinongogadzirwa hazvina kugadzirwa. So a car that is being properly taken care of, if the bumper is a little bit loose, you'll see somebody trying to make sure that it goes back in place. That alone shows that there is care that is happening. But many people, they drive their vehicles and they only attend to them when they stop going forward or reversing. That's when they say, oh, now I need to attend to my car. But for as long as that is working, they continue going until it stops. The best way of taking care of it.
Yeah, so and I'm curious, as you're listening in, can you figure out, can you stereotype this car? I mean, it's pretty mechanism like my clippers so you know, like it's like a clasp that's put on the front of the bumper to hold the bumper together. Like that basic coat where you like scratch off the paint and you fix off the dent or wherever it was damaged. I said also paint wa Governor, I was throwing that one at you.
Yeah, for sure. We need to take care of our cars, and we need to try and repair them.
I don't think you heard what I said.
In the best possible way. It's just that sometimes people don't have the money to properly do. I know there's the clips you're talking about that now. They're putting the bumper is out. Instead of getting it repaired or replaced, they put a little bit of stickers. Yeah, I've seen those kind of vehicles. But coming to a question of the difference between a service and a repair. So, a service is a scheduled or a periodic service that is already recommended by the manufacturer that we do our services. And when we are servicing the vehicles, we are attending to things, mostly your filters, your air filter, your fuel filter, your oil filter. Those are the things that we are attending to. And also spark plugs. But the basic service involves replacing of oil and oil filter. That's the basic minimum of doing a service. Then things like your air filters, you can replace them as and when they are in bad condition, because they are only filtering air. So if they are still good, it's not clogged, it doesn't have too much dust on it. If you shake it, not much dust is coming out. You can still use it and still continue. But if there's too much dust, which means now it's Chinese time, it's clogged, it's no longer allowing clean air to pass through easily to your engine, so you need to replace it. So the other thing that sometimes gets forgotten by people is the dust filter, which filters the air that goes inside the vehicle. That's some manufacturers will say it's a cabin filter, some they say it's a combination filter. So it filters the air that goes inside the passenger compartment, the air that we breathe inside. Also, if it's dirty, we need to replace it, but if it's not, you can always continue using it until you can replace it. This is something that is changing, such as called time frame. Your oil, with the time, they lose their property, they start degrading, so they won't be offering the best protection that your vehicle needs, so they need to be replaced. And also, even once you put your oil in the vehicle and run the vehicle, even for a short period of time, the reaction already is starting. So most manufacturers, they recommend that after every year, you need to replace the oil regardless of if you have driven the vehicle or not. It's because once that oil is run, the reaction now is starts and it's slowly degrading. It's also very important to use the proper oil grade that is recommended by that manufacturer. Don't try to play around with your oil and say, oh no, I hate this one is good. Use the proper grade that is recommended by that. Then when you come to the repairs now, the repairs is something that is worn out. It has run its time, it's run its course. It can be that it is run its course or it's just a premature failure of a component. Now it needs to be repaired. So it is because something has failed, now we need to repair. That's a repair. So it's different from a service.
Okay, got you.
The thing is running its time, even though it's still working, but it's now running its time, it needs to get it.
Speaking of something running its time, sorry, Gav, just to cut you there. So there's someone in the studio whose name shall not be mentioned, who says, it's time to sell that car. It's time to sell that car. And I said, why? My car is still doing what it needs to do. It has normal breakdowns like any normal car. It's not a mechanical, it's not an engineering issue that needs repair. Like, it'll be a small thing, right, that needs repairing. It's time to sell the car. It's time to sell the car. So I was going to ask, how do you know that it's time to repair? But ultimately, what are the signs that tell you that this repair now is getting serious? I don't know if my question is clear there.
Very clear, and it's a common question that you get from many people. So there are a lot of things that you need to consider before you sell your vehicle. Your vehicle can give you problems, and you may also go and buy another vehicle that will give you problems.
True.
Where you may say, maybe let me sell it and get another one, it's because maybe you want to buy a new vehicle, and you don't want the stress of fixing the vehicle. Because every vehicle is fixable. Every vehicle.
Right.
For as long as we've got the parts and we've got the expertise to fix it, every vehicle is fixable. And for as long as you attend to problems even when they appear, you don't bank them and say, okay, I'll do it another time, I'll do it another time. Once something is failed, attend to it and get it. You'll be okay. I can tell you in many places you've got cars that are as old as 2003, still driving well on them. So the consideration of saying, now I want to sell it is because maybe on your side you feel like you are better off just buying a new vehicle than this one, because you've got the money and you don't want the stress of fixing it. But to say it's continuously breaking down, let's find out what exactly is it that is happening. Is it maybe because we are not using the correct parts that could last us longer? Is it maybe because the expertise that we are using is not at the right level that can give us longevity and fight the car maintenance concern? What is it that is causing that? So, especially if you're buying a second-hand vehicle, you may be moving from one problem to another. But let's find the root cause. Why are we keeping on having this breakdown?
Yeah, got you. It's Capital 100.4 FM. Harare Zabi. If you have questions for Gav, do certainly come through and throw them at him. Jikanzi, hi Capital, Mukoma Casper listening in. Jikanzi, technology is good, but it's also destroying people's lives. Those people who are doing that are going to lose jobs. They're going to employ 2 or 3 who will be monitoring those cameras. But also, we can't stay behind. So I think it's good cameras on toll gates, robots, so crime can be eliminated. Just maybe, Caspar is wondering there. But interestingly, in South Africa, this technology is said is going to create employment, at least 400 job staff, and Michael. So coming in of technology does not mean a human being becomes redundant. It just means we need to redefine roles, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Because in South Africa, these number plates will actually be made by local players, local companies. And in fact, I think they had a conference where they were introducing this to people who actually make number plates or is tasked with making number plates to certain companies. And they're targeting something like 400, say, participants in terms of companies coming to such a conference. And only about maybe a third of those came through. So this actually opened up, I think, the minister or someone higher up in the South African ranks in terms of the national roads and maintenance. Say this is an opportunity for the young guys to actually get involved, open up these companies because an opportunity now exists. So it could create employment.
Mzwandile, I'm listening in from Grayson Park. Says, I know what that car is. It's a Mitsubishi.
Halfway there.
Yes. Yes, Mzwi, give us some more. Like, we're so excited for you, but we need you to say more, Jigaya. For like, I know the car that you're describing. And the car was describing that's like falling apart. You could be right there. Buying a car is cheaper than maintaining. Yeah, my number plates in their ownership will open a can of worms for almost half the cars. It works in a stable economy. How many body on wheels do you see being sold? Do you think people are changing plates? People are just respraying. Wow, this sounds dangerous. So maybe we do need to have some sort of order and restoration, and perhaps then having these car traceable plates might be something we need. Yeah, this one is sounding very dangerous. 7730, thanks for that. The hairs on my neck are like risen there. So, Governor, we're about to, I can't believe we've got like less than 20 seconds to go to the news, and I had so many questions because I wanted to check with you. If, say, I have difficulty, let's say loss of power from engine, would that necessarily count as a repair issue or a maintenance issue? But because of time, you won't even be able to answer this. So maybe perhaps we can hold the questions and then we can bring them in. Michael, how do we get a hold of you?
You can get hold of me on 0772 320815 on WhatsApp. That number is on WhatsApp, yeah.
Governor, how do we get a hold of you?
7149109. It's also on WhatsApp.
My wife.
Got you. And Taf, how do we get a hold of you?
Simple. Send an email to inquiries@zimoco.co.zw and ask for Tafadzwa.